5. Well, welcome back. Firstly, I'd like to know for the panel what the name is that you've decided on for the team.
Comprehensive Risk Consultants.
Comprehensive Risk Consultants. Okay. Right, over to you.
Good afternoon all, Mr. Client. Following our meeting this morning with our clients, we have noted various areas of concern. I will now hand over to our subject matter experts who will be touching on this in depth. Andre Brooks.
The most alarming thing from following our meeting this morning was that all deals and contracts are concluded by handshake. We also note that you currently have a multi-mark policy with a public liability section. And thirdly, we noticed from a recent press release that you've had to recall 3,000 drills back to the company as they were defective.
Our next subject matter expert, Chris Hudson.
We believe that there is an exposure in terms of GPA. We do understand that COID does take care of medical expenses if injured on duty, but we believe that there would be a gap in cover should there be any serious events. Just in terms of professional indemnity, we believe that this is an exposure, and once again will be discussed later on. I'll hand over to you.
From our meeting with you, I understand that one of your major concerns was legislative requirements as well as labour disputes. So further on I will be providing solutions shortly.
Lastly, I will touch on cyber liability. At present, we know that there's not much exposure. However, we know that business and multimedia and technology is the forefront of any business. Therefore, should you wish to now sell your products or rent out these products online, whereby you will need to obtain the client's personal information as well as bank account details, I definitely see that would be a greater risk.
You mentioned earlier on an issue of 3,000 drills being recalled. Could you just elaborate more on what that risk is?
The press release basically said that the client, John, has had to recall 3,000 drills, and we are about to recommend a product that suit that risk, and it's basically product recall, which would pay for the expenses of recalling those 3,000 drills.
How does the Consumer Protection Act apply to my business?
Let's say you sell a grinder to one of your clients and there's an electrical fault which potentially causes personal injury to the person using it. You can't just hand off liability to the manufacturer. You yourself would have to protect yourself with regards to any legal action being taken against you.
What happens if it's not my fault? Am I still liable in terms of the CPA?
Yes. The CPA imposes a duty of care on each and every supplier of goods, and that liability unfortunately cannot be passed on to the manufacturer.
How would you go about ensuring funds and penalties?
So I would ask myself the question, were you aware of regulatory requirements prior? Because if you are grossly negligent, meaning you completely understood that you needed to comply with the law and you didn't, then I would say that it would not be covered.
Let's talk about the employees.
The group personal accident policy does not have to have negligence to be paid out. It's just basically involving injury, medical expenses, or temporary and permanent disability.
So are you saying then that you must have group personal accident?
The answer to that is no. You do have COID that will provide you with cover for medical expenses.
Okay, so if COID pays, is there any possibility that I can be sued?
Yes, there would still be a possibility. It just depends on the circumstances surrounding the incident.
Should I be worried about labour issues?
In terms of employment practice liability, that's additional cover that could protect you in terms of legal costs should the CCMA win action against yourself and your company.
Should we get into the solution?
Thanks
for that.
Okay, I would hand over to Andre Brooks.
From our side, I would certainly recommend that we move over to a broad form liability policy from the multi-mark wording. One of the major reasons for this is that the multi-mark wording is a non-accidental wording, whereas the broad form policy does allow for accidental damage as well. And most importantly, we need covers such as product recall and product inadequacy, as you are selling products on the side, and it's also to protect you under the Consumer Protection Act. Public liability under the broad form is also very important.
From our side, in terms of the group personal accidents, I would suggest that cover be considered I believe it's a new expensive cover. This will cover or pay out an amount in terms of accidental death, permanent disablement, and temporary disablement, as well as medical expenses.
Regardless of whether I was liable or not.
Regardless, that is correct. And then just in terms of professional indemnity, obviously that will be needed in terms of the project management.
In terms of employment practice liability, that's a cover that we would actually recommend. It covers legal defense costs as a result of labor disputes. It's up to you, the client, to actually make a choice. It's an option. It just reduces the potential costs of a labor dispute.
Okay, thank you very much.
I think we met the mandates well. If I had to say who I thought was the natural leader today in our team, I think I did a good leadership job. I think I contributed quite a bit to the team's success. I think our presentation was a success. If I had to say who needed to leave and why, because we lost the task, it would be a very difficult decision, because I think we all brought our part. We met our objectives well, and I think we worked well as a team. If I had to make that decision under duress, I'd probably need to say that it would have to be Selena.
I think as a team we applied ourselves. I would say I'm the CEO. Because as a CEO, you don't need to know everything about everything. But you need to know the important bits about what you're working on and what you're working towards. So I'd say I'm the CEO. The person that needs to be eliminated today would probably be Chris.
I personally thought that we did pretty well with regards to everybody's performance. I think everybody brought their part. In terms of today's task, I think the natural leaders from the group would be myself and Andre. When there was questions to the whole team, I think I put my hand up twice. I answered most of the questions correctly. Obviously, if I have to choose somebody from the team that I believe needs to go in terms of today's performance, I would choose Selena.
I'm very confident that Team CRC won today. What I basically brought to the table and contributed was my leadership skills. If I am put in a position where I'm forced to make a decision, I would not base it on technicality. I would, however, say Chris.
Come inside. Well, the evidence has been reviewed and the judgment is due. I thought that comprehensive risk consultants, you did a very good presentation. I think the thing that really stuck out for me, the shining part of your presentation, was the contract risk management suggestion. And then something that I could perhaps say you should do a little bit better. You know, it's very risky as a broker to give an answer that you think is right, but you're not sure. It's much better to say you don't know. This is not like an exam where it's better to write down anything in the hope that you'll get it right, because there's a professional exposure that you have. The client could take you to court. SRS, something that I thought you did really well was you identified a part of the business that wasn't even in the mandate, and that was you spoke about the road risk, the liabilities surrounding that. You all seem to put a lot of stock in the creation of the app. And whilst it may appear that app innovation is cutting edge, it is something that everybody's doing.
I'd like to start with specialized risk solutions and say that, you know, one of the things that stood out for me, especially in the interviews with the client, is that you were very quite clear in explaining what a broker does and the role of the broker and why it's important for him to use a broker to address his needs. Having said that, I do think that you spend quite a lot of time overselling yourselves rather than understanding what the client actually wants. Comprehensive risk consultants, what I particularly want to commend you on is you use the time quite well to understand the client. You answered pretty much most of the questions by asking the client those questions, and I think that was quite well done.
SRS, you guys overran your time limit, and considerably so. This is after we warned beforehand that this is something that you should avoid at all costs. The other point that I'd like to make about you guys, you were very, very strong and very knowledgeable in the field of liability and what you put across. And that was great. Okay. The issue that I really have with that is that I ask myself, were you not perhaps too strong in terms of the skills that you have? And did you not perhaps try and oversell to a client which is simple and down to earth, and probably in the way you went about it, did not quite understand what you guys were on about? I must say to CRC, guys, your respect for the time frames was absolutely commendable. But then, again, leading to the questions, there were things, for instance, like the whole thing that fines and penalties actually is not insurable. Familiarize yourself with that. I know that technically you basically lacked in certain areas, and if you do lack and you don't know the answer, do not speculate. Now, based on the feedback that you've received just now, our winners today is Team CRC. Congratulations. Well done, guys. As you know, the losing team basically will shed one member. I can say to you, Karabo, that you will not be leaving us. Okay? Unati, you will also not be leaving us. Richard, unfortunately, it's you that has to go.
Sadly, I'm the first person that's been voted out, and although my experience has been short here, I really enjoyed it. I do feel that the best candidate did maybe get missed in me, but all the best to all the other candidates, and I hope they do well. I think that the winner will be Unati. That's based on the exposure that I've had to him. Unfortunately, I couldn't spend more time with the other candidates, but I think he's got a very good human side to him. His ability to deal with people, specifically his colleagues, I think that is going to be his dynamic that takes him through to being the winner.